Okay, between the wind and distractions, not sure if we're gonna get a video completely done today. We're gonna try, because we still have, well, like a half hour before I have anywhere to be. It's just a family thing, so it's not really a priority thing. So I'll probably, I don't know, we'll see what happens. So the exciting thing today is there's a bonfire with the family, and not really exciting. Was planned because it was supposed to be a Gracie birthday party thing, but since my mom can't get it through her head that she needs to include the child's mother in her planning of anything, or discussion of anything, because she keeps having this tendency to try to run her over like she's not part of the family or anything. Especially now that she's in Oklahoma, working while my brother's here, trying to get the house sold, and he was letting Gracie finish out the school year and all that stuff. And I think she has a class she's got to take this summer to make sure she's all caught up completely before she does leave, so she can finish third grade. She's been sick a lot this past year and had other various things. Ended up going on a cruise with her parents because my mom and dad were a little nutty. And it ended up being the best option was for her to go with her parents rather than to stay with the grandparents as originally planned. So yeah, always with the drama. But my mom and her sisters decided to go ahead and have a bonfire today, and it was supposed to be for Gracie's birthday party because her birthday is on the 3rd, but since she wouldn't include my sister-in-law in the planning or in the discussion at all, that's not happening. And of course, it sucks because Gracie loves the bonfires and all that stuff, and that's partly why she decided to go that route. But she won't include her mom in anything. It's like, not, oh my god, it's consistently she's getting like left out of things. When my mom and I were in the ER with my dad because he was having strokes, and we ended up calling 911 to come pick him up. We were in the emergency room with him, after they kind of got things figured out, or loosely figured out, and we're trying to get a game plan with him. She was putting together a message chain for the family to keep everybody updated. And my sister-in-law was on it. And right before she sent the message, she shows me who all's on this thing and what she has typed up. And then she said something about didn't think my sister-in-law would want to be bothered with it or something. It's like, really? I said, you're going to go with that. And then she deleted her off and sent the message without her on it. So it's like those kinds of things. And like she's continuing, like it's not a one and done thing. This is a constant thing. So because she cannot include his wife in things, my brother is like, he's had enough of it. He said some things recently to let her know this is not acceptable and she needs to get the hell up over herself and accept the fact that he will be leaving. I've talked about the conversation that we had with her while my dad was in the hospital, where she was trying to rally us around to be all sad because my dad wasn't doing good and we weren't playing along, and instead had this conversation she wasn't ready for, I guess, more than anything. She did not see it going that way, and my brother at that time told her that it's his decision for them to move because he doesn't feel like they're basically like she's going to allow them to raise their daughter as they want to, because she can't listen to what they're requesting. You know, like recently, my brother has said he doesn't want Gracie having cereal at their house. You know, if she has it at our house, whatever, it's fine, but they think she's lactose intolerant, so they don't really want her having a lot of milk and stuff that she would require milk for, and that is one of those things that she's not going to eat cereal without the milk. So just don't do the cereal, right? In the month and a half that my sister-in-law's been gone, they have acquired 4 bags of cereal in the pantry because my mom won't respect the boundaries and the saying no and all that stuff. So, yeah, kind of that scenario, basically. Alright. Since the wind was starting to pick up, I figured I'd give it a minute. And it keeps doing that. It's like, it'll calm down and then it picks up like crazy. Debating on getting back in the car, but rather not. But whatever. Anyway, since it is Gracie's birthday this week, my sister-in-law came in for the weekend. And of course, since my mom's just a pain in the butt and not trying to act like she's part of the family, despite the fact that she's still part of the family, they didn't tell her. Basically, I'm the only one that knew she was coming in. They were trying to keep it a surprise for Gracie for a little bit. But then the biggest thing was just not including Mom, because she runs over the top of everything. And so she got all this stuff for the bonfire, and then that was the day that my dad was coming back from the rehab hospital. So we stopped at Sam's because it was on the way home from the place, and she needed to get some things. And she got a bunch of things that, I mean, she said she was going in after hot dogs and hot dog buns, and then of course came back with like a whole cart full of groceries. So yeah. Which there was drama on that end too. So yeah, so obviously she had so much stuff, so it's like, well, it didn't make sense to not have a bonfire. But since of course they weren't including, or she wasn't trying to include my sister-in-law, then my brother was just like, look, we won't be there. And she said that night she was 95% sure that my sister-in-law was coming in for the weekend. It's like, okay. She said she can't prove it. She doesn't, and they never told her one way or another, but she's 95% sure. It's like, okay, so whatever. It's like, why wouldn't she? Because that is her kid and she's getting ready to be 9. So, yeah. And she's not been doing real well with the whole, the fact that her parents aren't in the same location. So there's been some drama. But yeah, so today is the bonfire. And, well, I decided I was going to do the thing that I was going to do on Mother's Day, but then decided not to, since it was just like, it just seemed like it would bring unnecessary drama additionally, because it was Mother's Day, and Mother's Day. I can appreciate it for people that, have had a decent relationship with their mother, but it's just one of those things. It's like, the more I hear about the Mother's Day, Father's Day, any of that shit, it's like, yeah, I don't care anymore. I'm just so done. I'm ready to be done from the situation and find my way out of it. But for the time being, we're stuck. So, but even then, like, I don't know if I said it in this video or in one of the videos I deleted, but I don't know, it's just weird, because it's like, I know I'm here where I'm supposed to be right now, but it's only temporary, but it is necessary, because it's like the universe is trying to make sure I'm good and disconnected from all this shit and ready to be done with it for real when I go to leave. And yeah. I'm so ready to be done with it. Then of course, my mom, night before last, she has this like hot air balloon thing. It's like a porch decoration that lights up after it's charged with the sun. The other night, she made this big deal about, can I help her hang it up somewhere? The youngest sister got it for her because she's really sad for how things are working out for her here lately. And she got it for her to lift her up. It's like, oh, how cute and cheesy. It's a pretty little air balloon thing, so whatever. But she was just kind of emphasizing the point that she was disappointed with how things have been going for her. Basically, she's upset that me and my brother are such useless kids at this point in time, that we're finally pushing back and not going along with the bullshit that she's just dragging us into all the time. Because that was our life. Just getting run over by all the chaos, getting pulled into her chaos all the time, so that we weren't able to really know what was going on for ourselves and able to have lives of our own, because she didn't want any part of that. As I've said many times, our existence was solely to feed into the toxic family system. So once we started setting boundaries and stopped playing our role in the drama, they're not happy with us. It goes back to that, I talked about Jerry Wise and his talk about the narcissistic family super self. It's like, yeah, the super self is angry that me and my brother are disconnecting. And yeah. And I gotta say, my dad got home on Friday. That is now Sunday. Already that house smells horrid again. And yes, I understand that the man had a stroke, or had multiple strokes, but he also kind of brought it on himself. Because this is the man who has spent, my entire life feeling sorry for himself and, bullying people. I was one of those people that he bullied, and with the name calling, because I wasn't the same child after my great-grandfather died and everything started going to shit. So it was easier to become one of the bullies than to figure out what was going on with me, right? So from the time I was 8, that's all I've known of that man, was that he was a bully. And I always had a much easier time being disconnected from him than I did my mom. But of course, that's mom. And it took a really long time to figure out that what she was doing as far as like the bullshit, like, she's playing victim one minute and nothing ever works out for her, and then the next minute being an absolute terrorist and running over anything that you might possibly have in your life that's worth enjoying. And I'm extremely grateful that my brother and I have each other in this whole ordeal, because it's very helpful. And it's kind of easy to make fun of the whole situation now that we're more disconnected from it than we were previously. It took us a long time to get there. And yeah. I just told him a little bit ago that the bonfire was still happening, and he said he wasn't going to say anything to Gracie because he doesn't want to distract her from the fact that Jen's still there right now, and while she's still there, doesn't want her to be distracted with this other thing that she could be doing, because of course she gets an idea set in her mind, and then like she's so obsessed over that nothing else can happen. And on the family end, that's exactly what they want, right? So they continued with the bonfire planning, which is fine. But if my brother's family shows up at all, Mom wins. And it's literally just that easy. you know, and it goes back to that day that, okay, I think it was back in February. My mom tried to rope me into helping over at my grandma's house because grandma was getting new paint and new carpet, and she was going to go get donuts and Beth was going to get beverages, and it was just going to be this big bonding thing. Damn it, I did rip my pants. Bummer. So annoyed. Okay. I accidentally threw Gidget's ball over the fence earlier and had to go get it. And the way over the fence was fine. And I said, thank you that I'm not going to rip my clothes. And this will be all right. Didn't do that on the way back over. Taz like jumped at me when I was trying to come back over the fence. And I ended up with the top of the fence in the back of my shorts. And there was a spot that I ended up on that was like broken, and it snagged my pants apparently. Oh well, I'll still wear them. It doesn't feel like it's a big disaster. But yeah, thanks to my asshole dog wouldn't leave me alone. While I was trying to come back, I ended up with a hole in my pants. But whatever. I laughed, so yeah, less so because there's a hole in my pants, but yeah, at the fact that I got hung up on the fence. Anyway, so the thing in February, on Friday night, my mom says everybody's going to meet over at grandma's house, and we're gonna, you know, do some big rearranging of things, cleaning things out, putting things in the garage, getting it ready so her house can be painted and recarpeted. You know, and this is like since they moved back. I think they got new carpet when they first moved back when I was 8. But then did not do anything else with it until just recently because my grandfather finally kicked the bucket. Not sad about that one at all either. So anyway, you know, this is this big deal, and mom's all excited, and just the thought that came to mind immediately was no is a complete sentence. But I didn't say it. It's like I just was thinking it. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. And that was the little, you know, confirmation there. No is a complete sentence. When we just rolled with that. But then I was still feeling bad the next morning because I was up technically with enough time to be able to get ready and go over there. But it's like, if I do that, I'm going along with the fact that, you know, she just told me to be there, and I'm just there because I'm supposed to be, right? It's like, nope, I don't like that. So since I was up, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to Hardee's and get breakfast. And so I did. Fuck this wind, man. On the way back, I was thinking, it's like, if they asked me why I hadn't gone, and I said, because you didn't ask, then they'd ask me just to appease me, and then it would be back to the same position where, now do what you're told. You know, it's like, I know. This is the problem. This is why that's not going to work out. And of course, that was the day as I was having this thought that I ended up seeing the bald eagle on the fence, or in the field, which was pretty badass, and got a couple pictures of that. But yeah, it's like, she told me this thing was happening, and I was basically expected to do it. If I would have done it, it was appeasing the system. Since I didn't do it, if they had asked and I said, because you didn't ask, you just expected me to be there, then they would ask, but also expect me to be there. So it's like, yeah, so this is not there's no winning in this situation. It's literally the only way to win is not to play. Right? So that's kind of where my brother's at with the whole bonfire thing today. And, you know, my mom mentioned it and then said, you can tell them. And initially I wasn't going to. But then the only reason I did, so my mom and dad went to lunch with my uncle that's up from Florida, and then apparently his girlfriend up here, separate from the girlfriend that's 80, that's down in, Florida, that doesn't have the decency to die off at this point, even though she's had cancer and all this shit. He hasn't said that. But he's dating around up here in the little span of time that he's been here, right? So that's still sleazy, right? Yeah. Anyway, so when my parents got back, my uncle had come over this way, or to our house too. And the dogs were going nuts, so I stuck my head out in the garage for a minute, and my mom asked me for some help on something. And so I went out there, and she looks at my shirt, which I like my shirt, and says, "Ew." And I don't remember what else she said with it, but there was something. It's like, it's a band. But of course, since I'm going to be around the family, that's why I opted to wear this one. It's not Mother's Day, so that can't be the problem. Yeah. So, and yeah, they won't like these either, but I love them, so ha. So I sent my brother a picture. It was me flipping off the camera, but it had my shirt in it. And I said, Mom doesn't like my shirt. And yeah, he appreciated it. And of course, he said something about she made a big deal about his Rammstein shirt, like back when he was in high school. And he goes, and that one's way more tame than that. It's like, I aim to let it just piss them off, honestly. I'm kind of over the bullshit, and since we're still playing petty bullshit games, yeah, okay. I'm in. But yeah, let's see, where am I time-wise? 4:51. It's supposed to be at 5. I don't care if I'm punctual or not. I mean, they're just gonna bitch at me anyway. So yeah. Where was it? Trying to remember where I was even at with the conversation piece. I finally watched Nosferatu, and it's good. I am getting to a point, I've only done it a couple times, but I kind of like just chilling on Sunday morning and watching a movie before I even get out of bed, especially when the windows are open and it feels amazing in there. At one point, when I woke up and fed the dogs at like 4 o'clock this morning, I looked at my clock, and it's got a little thermometer thing on there, and it said it was 59 degrees. It's like, yes, no wonder I'm sleeping so good in here today. Yes, I like it. So yeah. Yeah, so then it was kind of chilly outside of the blankets, so just watch a movie and wait till the room warms up, and it got to like 65 degrees by the time I finally was ready to get up and start moving. So yeah, it worked out. My mom was making a big deal earlier about going to lunch with my uncle. He wanted to meet up with her and my dad, and was supposed to be bringing his girlfriend along. It's like, have fun with that. Because of course, everybody in the family likes the girlfriend that's, not dead yet. And apparently my uncle's been saying all sorts of dick things, like, well, she's 80. Like he didn't know that was going to happen when he started dating somebody so significantly older than him. It's like, yeah. So let's possibly consider what motives he has to be in that connection then, right? Because obviously he's such a gem. When that's, of course, I've talked in another video recently that he's been pissing off a whole lot of people in the family because, everybody liked her. Of course, she usually doesn't come up here when he does, but whatever. Like when anybody goes down there, everybody's liked her. And, you know, he's the sleazeball that I didn't used to think he was a sleazeball, but he totally turns out he totally is. Yeah, so I guess he brought the new girlfriend to, it's like somebody he went to high school with or something, who has lost her husband in the past 6 months. Tell me he's not sleazy. There's more motive there. No doubt in my mind. But anyway, one of his things that pissed off a whole bunch of people was he decided to have an outing with a bunch of the siblings and brought the girlfriend along and had her sit next to my one aunt who lost her husband last year so he could take a picture of them together so he could carry it around on his phone. Rather than just have the new girlfriend while the old girlfriend won't die yet. You know, they're one of those situations. So, yeah. Family drama. I always knew he bothered me. Especially, like, the past several times I've been around him. It's like, there's something about him I do not like at all. Shady as shit, that's what. That accounts for it. So yeah. What other brilliant things do we have going on today? I decided to make a post yesterday, and, you know, I wrote something talking about, you know, finally making the decision to try to do things to actively work on growing the channel, right? And when I was skating yesterday, I was like really agitated, and like for the first 31 minutes I had my music playing, and then I got to a point it's like I need to shut this off, and I shut the music off and continued skating in silence. And I checked my my mileage tracker app, and it said I was at like 3.85 miles, and I had thought about going to 7, and I looked at my phone at that point, and I just turned around. It's like, fuck it, I'm done. It's like, I'm so ready to be done. So I skated back to the car, and it ended up being like 4.07. So a little over, but I just was at that point. And, you know, I went home, took a shower, got ready for the day, but didn't do the makeup and all that fun stuff because I was just like, you know, I'm just not feeling like doing it. It's like, I know I'm not going to do a video because, of course, I'd done the video the day before, and then I set it to post yesterday after the algorithm has time to think about it for 24 hours and process who to put it in front of or whatever. And while I was skating, I realized that it was anxiety around the idea of trying to do something different than I'd been doing to actually push for a little bit of growth, right? So like the entire time I have been doing this YouTube thing, I have had no intentions of actively trying to grow it, right? So it's just, universe is going to put it in front of whoever it's meant to go in front of whenever it's meant to be there. And, you know, however it goes, I can't control that one way or another, right? So the people that are meant to find me will eventually find me. But, yeah, so I, you know, I've talked about the only reason I started the channel was because of this whole twin flame thing that, you know, I basically, once I figured out who he was to me, then I got to a point where I realized that he had to be in a spotlight so I could find him, but then how would he ever find me? So then it's like, I gotta do the thing. And I had started thinking about it, but the thought of it made me sick because that's like one of my biggest things, right? It's my entire life, my like the fear of using my voice has been such a huge dominating factor of my life. So then to face this thing where it's like, okay, now you have to. It's like, okay. So I did. And it was very slow to start. The first 3 subscribers I got, I cried, because it's like, what if I fail? What if I can't do this? And what if it goes badly, right? So it's like all the things, so it's like, all right, can't obsess over that. And so I started focusing less on that and just kind of doing the thing. Back then, it's like most of my videos were right around a half an hour, I think. And it was okay. Probably better on that end, because it's a little easier to see a video's 30 minutes and, hey, I'll check that out, rather than an hour and a half. And so, yeah. But for just starting out and not knowing what I was doing, it's like, well, it seems like I'm supposed to just start talking. And so that's what I did. And then it ended up being this whole healing thing, and, making connections with stupid shit from my past, and, getting to the end of the fact that, like, my dad was one of my biggest bullies growing up, but so was my mom, right? So, where my dad would say shitty things and make me, he would just, like, do whatever he could to antagonize me and try to get a response. But then, whenever I was pissed at my mom, if I didn't respond well enough, then that's kind of where he'd step in and start being as much of a dick too, right? So yeah. I realized that there were a lot of things that I had to process through and sort of mourn for myself, that went back to the fact that he was a bully, and that I hadn't realized how much that was the case for my life, and me specifically. But then, like, everything kept pointing to it. It's like, fuck that dude, right? Of course, I talked last year, I think back in June, I said I was, like, starting to see his birthday pop up in weird places, and it made me wonder if, going back to the cards that I pulled last January, where the one was the Sister of the Seasons, and it said to be mindful of which season you are in. And since I had started seeing my great-grandfather's birthday everywhere, I eventually made the connection that it was a death season. And then after I made that connection, there was a whole lot of people that started dying off. Of course, it started with my uncle, and my uncle died in February last year. We had a family friend that died in March, and I had a former coworker die in March as well. It wasn't somebody that I was really close with, but we're still connected on Facebook, and the manager I'd had when I worked with him let me know that he had passed away, and he's from New Pal, so they were having a celebration of life for him in New Pal. So it's like, all right, I can attend to that. That's close. It's like 5 minutes away from my house. So I will go for 5 minutes, or I can go somewhere 5 minutes away to just be there, I guess. Check in with whoever came, see some faces I hadn't seen in a while. So that happened. 5 o'clock. And then there's a little bit of a gap. Then my sister-in-law's mom died. There's a bunch of animals that died throughout the year as well. I know the family friend that I dog sat for the other day, her sister passed away back in September. I know there's more in there that did pass, but December was when my grandfather passed, and of course that's the be-all end-all as far as my mom's concerned. And it's like she neglected everybody else that had lost people because her daddy died, and it's like, she's still very obsessive over that whole point. I feel pretty confident, and I thought back in June last year, it's like, I feel like it's being forewarned that my father will be somewhere in the near future. What the hell is happening there, man? And my grandma's going to be at some point too, but like, I think my dad's going to go before my grandma does. So yeah. But like I said, I can't bring myself to be sad about that, because it took me to getting divorced and moving back to realize that my family is a big reason that my life was shitty before. So, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that I've been having to work through, and this whole channel thing has been the thing forcing me to face some of those, and some of it is like, I'll tell stories on here, and I'm repeating the same stories, because honestly, I don't expect anybody that happens into my stuff today to want to go back to something I posted last year, right? So it's like, a lot of it is telling the same stories, trying to give enough of the information that people can understand what's going on and not have to go all the way back. But yeah, it's where we are, right? So in that process of like telling and retelling the stories, it's caused me to have to make a bunch of connections that I would have probably missed otherwise. So yeah, what's happening with the sun here? So yeah, but when I had that realization last year that it's like, I feel like my dad's going to be in the near future as well. Okay. I knew Tyler was going to die in our mid-30s when I was 18. I don't know how I knew. I just knew, right? Like the they weren't really visions, they were just things that I knew. Tyler was going to die in our mid-30s. I was going to be 40 before I started figuring anything out for myself. And the group of 5 guys, right, that I knew were going to be very important to me, and that ultimately we're here to change the world together. Right? And I still haven't met them, but I know who they are. But even that, like, because of this process, this whole YouTube thing, and talking through my stuff, and then, making skating a habit so I can actually clear some of the baggage out of my system and make connections that way, I figured out who they were, and, the kind of where that stems from, right? So, it was basically an activation kind of a thing. And it was like this exact combination of 5 guys in a band whose energy was like a thing that clicked for me. And then like weird dreams started happening, and they showed up in several dreams, and I've talked about those on here several times. And just weird things, and then going along with the twin flame thing, and it's like, right. So yesterday, when the video was still percolating, I had set it to post 24 hours after it had finished processing, rather than publishing it immediately. I paused it, and I watched a video where somebody was talking about letting the algorithm process the content in the video and determine who to put it in front of, kind of a thing. And when I was awake and realizing, or skating and all this stuff, and realizing that I was really agitated after I spent some time writing, I realized that a big part of it was because I had introduced the idea of finally being ready to grow the channel a little bit. But then it was really stressful because that's something I haven't been actively trying to do in the time that I've been doing the thing, right? So like the first year of doing the thing, I made it to 12 subscribers. And the first 3 I cried over because I was like panicked because what if I couldn't do the thing? And, 4 and 5 were not as traumatic, but still was intense, but then after that, it's like, all right, this isn't so bad, but then I hit the 1-year anniversary, which was 11/11. And like the first year, I had to take a break after like the first 7 to 10 videos because I had already expanded so much beyond what I thought I was capable of doing, that the fact that I was doing it at all really just, it's like I had to take a break and adjust and allow myself to be okay with the fact that this was something I had started doing, right? And whereas before, the idea of sharing any of my story where anybody could find it, that was terrifying. So yeah, at 1 year, I I got to thinking, it's like, all right, so I'm at a year, I've been doing this for a year, and I'm at like 80 some videos. It's like, I bet I could make it to 100 by the end of the year. And it's like, I bet I could make it to 100 by the end of the month. So then I pushed, and when I pushed, then I saw like a jump to like 37, and of course that was my great grandfather's birthday, so of course that one stood out. And then I think 65 was one that I caught, and it's like I would just start seeing these little jumps. It's like, that's interesting, what's happening, and it's really weird when I'd see like most of my videos would be at like 20, 30 views, but then one would get up to I saw a picture that I had sent my friend back in February that had like 607, and I was like, what's happening? But like there were others that had that kind of substantial jump as well, and then it's just kind of like, I don't really know what's going on here, but that's weird to see. And I think it was one of those things that was universe trying to get me ready for the weird things that could potentially come up with this thing, right? So that was the big thing. Since recently, I had decided maybe I'm ready to start trying to grow it a little bit more. Then there was that sense of panic again, because who the fuck am I, right? What the fuck am I doing again? And it's an intense thing to have to process through. It's like, and I talked about that animal apothecary deck several times on here. And, like, recently I pulled the chicken head card. Get out of your head or whatever. And it talks about whenever you're getting ready to do something to make room for bigger, better things to come in, keep in mind that, the little chicken brain tendency will be, activate and try to self-sabotage. It's like, yep, there we are again. And of course that's been my life. I've talked about that a lot, because that bear picture that I won the contest with, and then how when I found out I won the contest, within a half hour, my parents found a way to suck the life out of it, and then I spent the rest of the day crying, right? But because I had a group of people that I could go socialize with, the Wednesday night group, I went there, and it's like, you know what? I'm not going to let them just have shit all over that and that be the extent of it this time. And so I shared it with the group, and they were excited for me because my picture won. And then, it got a bunch of people talking about, well, you have some really good pictures. It's like, I like taking pictures, but I never thought of it as something that I was good at it by any means, so it's like, I feel like there's something I will be doing with that eventually. Not today. Kind of today, because I'm still taking pictures, but, just I don't know. It's something that I enjoy doing from time to time, so it will somehow be a part of whatever I'm doing in the future. It won't be the full thing. But, you know, it was only because I had that group that I was connected with to talk, you know, to choose to share my exciting news with. Only because of that, you know, was I able to choose a new meaning for what had been happening, like with the shit with my family, you know, and how my parents sucked the life out of my exciting news within a half hour, and then they were pleased with themselves because they ruined my day. And it's like, fuck you assholes, you know. But it's like, this whole journey is the only reason I've started to figure any of this stuff out. It's like, that in and of itself is huge to me. But I had to start doing the thing, right? So, and only because of the whole twin flame thing did that even become a possibility. And like, everything just feels weird right now. It's like I feel like something big is right around the corner, and I don't know how that's going to play out by any means. I don't know what's going to play out by any means. I just feel like I'm not far away from disconnecting with the family for good and moving into the life that's meant for me, right? But it's taken every single difficult step, you know, and make all the hard decisions that I've had to make to choose to do things differently, to start things that I just felt like I was being led to do before it even became a possibility to, you know, have any of the rest of it. So, my mom said something yesterday about, well, you still have a deck to paint, because I'm supposed to paint my grandma's deck. It's like, I have not forgotten about it, but it's not been high priority here lately, because, I mean, look at the dumb shit that's been going on. Like, 2 weeks ago or whatever, 2.5 weeks, I think, my dad ended up, he first took himself off of his meds for several weeks, then ended up having this eye surgery where they saw something that didn't look right that they needed to investigate, so they had to take a piece of the artery out so they could kind of figure out what was going on there. That surgery, apparently, in and of itself, had he not taken himself off all of his like blood pressure and other health issue meds, that surgery apparently does raise the risk for stroke. So does taking yourself off all of your blood pressure and all those, you know, important meds like that. And I guess the type of strokes that he's been having are associated with like 2 or 3 different conditions that he has otherwise. So it's like, yep, I'm not going to feel bad about any of this situation. It's like, I saw last year that there was a good chance that something was going to happen to him in, you know, sometime in the near future in this death season, however that looks like, however long that fucking goes. It's just, you know, but I can't feel bad about it. I won't feel bad about it, because my life with that man was literally him as a bully, and him, you know, playing in with my mom and making sure that I couldn't do anything more worthwhile with my life sooner in my life, right? And so here we are. And is what it is. I'm not gonna feel bad. Just not. I am over getting pulled into other people's drama when they haven't even cared enough for themselves to try to do things to help themselves either. You know, it's not, my life is not meant to just be there for them to suck the life out of. So, it is what it is. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and get to this family thing so I can annoy them with this. And yeah, a little shorter video, the hell. As always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.